Hi, tonight we're going to talk about putting God and ourselves in a box. We put ourselves in a box, and it is cramped because we put our beliefs, our God, and our way of living in the same box, which is limited and restricts our love. We cram our past and a prepared future into the same box. As a result, it defines us and fences us in, keeping out the possibilities and the expansive love that can make us happy. We are meant to stand out and be free without restricting our love. But when we are young, we learn to fit in, wish, and try hard to fit in, so we cram ourselves into the sandbox with everyone else. Ordinary people don't choose to live free, fearlessly and courageously outside the box, because they want the comfort of fitting in, so they don't pick the choice of being different. If we try to transcend the environment of our cubicle, society, family, and our friends, it makes us feel uncomfortable, not allowing us to consider who we are or what we really want in life. We become a product of our environment, society, and culture, and don't get what we wish for, belonging of our heart. Therefore, we don't align with the divinity within. We ignore the appeal and attractiveness of freedom. Instead, we hear the demands coming from a box built on fitting in, with judging and criticizing misfits, so one size fits all. A narrow, restrained identity with insecurities and fear is an inadequate way to live. When we can embrace our true self by waking up to our dreams and stop sabotaging them, since being in a box is not a life sentence. Misery and pain is sustained and imprisons us in our mind. Therefore, we are drawn into our box as we hold on to our suffering and become a prisoner of our past thoughts. We need to take responsibility for the energy we put in our box, which forms our identity. And if contaminated, we need to let ourselves out of the box to breathe fresh air. Our mind is a portal, and what we carry in it is what we see the world and create our reality for this reason. It is either open to the soul or broken and closed. Albert Einstein says, "The world, as we have created it, is a process of our thinking. It cannot be changed without changing our thinking." To change our thinking, we have to observe our thoughts without reacting to them, as we pay attention to the vibrations from our soul and not the commotion from our box. The way out of the box is through the soul, because we observe from the perspective of the Spirit, observing our light and shadows. Until we recognize the negatives in our own mind, we continue to see them in the physical realm and in other people, because what we see in the world comes from our mind. In the soul perspective, we don't get disturbed and disrupted like we do in the box, kicking it over in disgust, because relationships and situations are unable to disturb us without the reaction of our mind. Beyond the mind, what irritates us teaches us. What provokes us is forgiven, which doesn't clear the conduct, but stops it from disrupting our peace. This is why Confucius said, "Attack the evil that is within you, rather than attacking the evil that is in others." It is not power that makes us effective. It is the way we see things. So when we change our perspective, we attain peace and a clear mental picture. We become the hostage of our identity, living in a box we created with our thoughts, and we can't think outside it, as we become the barcode labeled on it. The Dalai Lama was asked what surprised him the most about humanity, and he answered, "Man sacrifices his health in order to make money. Then he sacrifices money to recuperate his health. And then he is so anxious about the future that he does not enjoy the present. The result being that he does not live in the present or the future. He lives as if he is never going to die, and then dies having never really lived. We need to be strong enough to stand alone so other people don't force us into a restricted box, which is their notion of what life should be like, because a narrow, constricted life is suffocating. We need to live our truth and be free so we can be loved for who we really are. Subsequently, we are responsible for how long we stay in the box. Everything we would like to be is in our soul, which is our connection to the entire universe. We just have to let go of the teachings that pressured us on how we should live. When we fly out of the box, we enter a life in pure consciousness where we embrace the present, and then everything else takes care in unity and totality. We don't go back in time, so we start where we are in the present, as we trust our spiritual outing and change the ending. Standing outside the crowd alone does not mean we are lonely, because it means we are strong enough to deal with and to come to grips with things by ourselves. At this point, our life and frame of life is not jerked around with unimportant actions that are of no consequence, because the others are no longer the focus of our life. Other people are not wrong. They are just not conscious of who we are and what we need, similar to our own ego. So when we observe our ego and other egos, we begin to evolve beyond the mind. We don't take them or our own ego seriously or personally, because the ego, the mind, the box is not who we are, and we know more than what they have to offer. Egotistical thinking is what prevents us from knowing our true self. And when we heal, we begin to see everyone as our teacher, even the people who annoy and trigger our reactions. We all suffer and are prisoners of our ego, the hostages of our own identities, boxes created by ourselves, and the pressure of other people. The way in is the way out of the box. Even if we don't understand, the way is to observe our thoughts, because we are going beyond the mind to a higher level of consciousness. Krishnamurti says, the ability to observe without evaluating is the highest form of intelligence. We become a collective, a parcel of thoughts, emotions, and judgments, both good and bad, that we feel comfortable being. But the container sinks in quicksand when we think the grass is greener elsewhere, even if it is fake. As a result, we start to transcend our attachments, our superficial identity, and become conscious that we are really not what our mind thinks, which gives us a sense of peace and unity. This happiness comes from the courage to let go of what we can't change, and we have an awakening experience similar to what the Serenity Prayer says. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. There are many people living in stucco boxes that are never free except when they sleep and dream. That is why Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "Don't be pushed by your problems, be led by your dreams." This is also why people meditate daily, to let go of the false perceptions in our mind and free our true identity. This is not a loss, but a combining or uniting with the whole, the infinite, the one pure consciousness that is everywhere in everything. But there is a price to be paid, because as we increase our awareness, invasive people will not be able to control us, so they will try to control how others see us. It is unprovoked, but we can rise above it, as Lao Tzu says. Care about what other people think, and you will always be their prisoner. Identity is in the mind, and it is a prison, but we can't turn our back on it and flee. We have to face it and then use it as a starting point to grow and expand. Our mind is consciousness, and consciousness is in the mind. So our mind pretends and dresses up with limitations so we identify with it, and not the unlimited consciousness. This is why awareness and realizations come and go, as our mind is altered to an expanded perspective, and then we go back to normal. Baba Ram Dass says, there is only one of us, one consciousness manifesting itself into different forms. We are a part of the one consciousness, but our thoughts create our identity that thinks we are separate, and our mind thinks these thoughts all day in a stream of illusion. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, a man is what he thinks about all day long. We become mechanical products of our mind, and what we are told as we become preoccupied with thinking and our troubles while obsessed with working, eating, and sleeping. We go to many places for amusement to distract the mind, but it is temporary, and we never experience widespread, all-embracing happiness. Our life needs a process for self-analysis, to stop being a robot and to progress creativity, contentment, peace, harmony, and transcend beyond our fear and worries. Once we have a spiritual experience, we never think of our mind, body, and soul in the same way. We did because we realize we are not the mind or body, but the soul. Our mind doesn't know the difference between thoughts and experiences, so we need a spiritual experience to realize the light at the end of the tunnel is real. Pure consciousness, while the tunnel is the hallucination and deception. When we stop to observe our thoughts, we realize the voice in our heads acts as if it is us and never stops speaking. So we take drugs and alcohol to stop it, but that also stops the observation or awareness of it. Rumi said, don't look for me in human shape. I am inside your looking. Pema Chandra says, meditation practice isn't about trying to throw ourselves away and become something better. It's about befriending who we are already. Time is in eternity, and we are in time, when we are in our mind. But when we enter consciousness, we are in eternity and not limited by our mind or time. We are eternal, born in a mind that is limited by time and will die as we are not aware of consciousness. We need a process to become conscious of our consciousness. Leonardo da Vinci said, learn how to see. Realize that everything connects to everything else. Our thoughts create actions, events, situations, and circumstances, but rearranging and recycling them does not make us happy. It only reflects what the mind's voice has been telling us. To stop the voice, we become mindful of our thoughts to realize we are not our mind, its thoughts or its voice. So we experience peace, bliss, and joy in just being. To free ourselves in meditation, we don't try to control our thoughts, because the more we try, the more they control us. So we let them take their natural course so they don't control us. There are many meditation techniques, and it doesn't matter which one you choose, because meditation is not the goal. It is a bead for the mind, similar to the beads for the body. Catholic rosaries, Sufi beads, Buddha beads, Chinese bowling balls, Native American calming stones, and many more. In meditation, we repeat in our mind the mantra or centering prayer, and with practice, we get to the point of observing the mind. Doing this, our thoughts come and go, but we return to the center and observe, like being, for example, your consciousness is a bus driver. Your consciousness is the bus and the driver. Watching as passengers get on and off the bus. So the passengers getting on and off the bus are our thoughts. We don't talk to them because that entertains the thought and it lingers as we think about it. So we're not listening to our soul. You just watch the thoughts come and go. And as you do this, watching, you rise above it. Kind of like watching a fire or watching a stream or river or watching the waves. You rise above it and then you're just being in pure consciousness. The Christian mystic St. Francis de Sales says, "Where there is peace and meditation, there is neither anxiety nor doubt." Thank you.